Hello YouTube. I'm trying something a little different today. I'm stepping out from behind the camera and coming out here in front of the camera to talk to you. Had a recent trip that didn't quite go as planned. Don't have a whole lot of video from the first part of the trip because things were going badly and I didn't feel like taking video at the time. I wasn't in the mood for it and was focusing on other things. The purpose of the trip was a fly-in-by. I flew from the Dallas area out to California to buy this motorcycle that you see behind me. This is a 2016 KTM 1190 Adventure R. Everything kind of started out well. The weather was really good. It was great where the plane was coming from. It was great at my airport and in California. So flights were all on time, which was pretty miraculous. In fact, I ended up arriving a little bit early. I was so optimistic that I even went so far as to try to record an intro in the airport, looking like a complete idiot dressed in full motorcycle gear to go on a plane flight. On arrival, the owner of the bike was there to pick me up. He took me back to his house. The bike was in immaculate condition, was already ready to go. He'd even gone so far as to go ahead and connect up my GPS mount and had everything ready to go that I had shipped to him, so that all I had to do was attach the GPS, sign some paperwork, give him some money, and go. Seemed pretty easy, and everything was going well until it was time for me to actually ride the bike. When I went to get on the bike, the KTM 1190 Adventure R is a very tall bike, and I am not a very tall person. Additionally, I had a duffel bag on the back, and so I was kind of having to do the whole thing where you kick your leg up and spear it across the seat. Got on the bike, and when I went to put the kickstand up, I couldn't actually reach the nub on the kickstand. So I couldn't kick the kickstand up in order to get going, so I had to come up with an alternate plan. So I got off the bike and figured I'll put the kickstand up and then swing my leg up and over, and then I'll be ready to go. Well, when I went to swing my leg up and over, my foot caught on the seat and me and the bike went down. Laying there in the front of the driveway of the previous owner with him standing there looking on, I was horribly embarrassed. It was a terrible situation. I hadn't dropped a bike in years, and here I haven't even ridden this bike a single foot and I've already dropped it. He got me helped me pick the bike up, no harm except for my ego, and I'm trying to figure out how I can just get out of this situation as quickly as possible. So I decided to get on the bike again, and I asked the owner, hey, can you just kick the kickstand up for me? I'll figure this out as I go, right? Good plan. So he did that, and off I go. Managed to make it through town, got to Interstate 10, decided that in order to make the California border by nighttime, I could probably make it on one tank of gas, but I needed to fuel up now. So I pulled into a gas station, and in the process kind of utilized the pedestal that the gas pump sits on to get myself stopped. Getting the kickstand down was no problem, but when I went to get the bike back up off the kickstand, I kind of heaved a little too hard, and me and the bike went over, crashing into the gas pump. I haven't even gotten on the interstate yet, and I've already dropped it twice. So I managed to get it off the gas pump and get going. Got on Interstate 10. There was quite a bit of a traffic backup. It's Los Angeles area, so no surprise. There was a car accident, and so this was me living in Texas. This is my first time trying lane splitting. Have to give some props out to the California drivers. Like 2 out of 3 of them were moving out of the way for me, letting me come through. I really appreciate that. If I'd tried that here in Texas, 3 out of 3 drivers would have cut me off and blocked me. So it was actually a really good experience, and really enjoyed it and got me on my way pretty quickly. Only other incident I had after that, ran into my first sandstorm. There was pretty high winds, really low visibility, and sand got everywhere, all up inside my helmet. It was pretty crazy. But otherwise, managed to finally make it to my hotel and got a good shower and got ready to go to sleep and get up for a ride the next day into Arizona. So heading out of California and getting across the Arizona border, one of the things that I had planned out is I noticed that there was a road that ran parallel to the interstate, and so it allowed me to get off the interstate. And that road was unpaved, so it allowed me to kind of try out the 1190 Adventure R off-road a little bit. My first mistake that I should have realized that I was planning incorrectly was when I ended up on a private drive. Turns out this person's driveway was much more improved than the actual road was, and so I completely missed the road and ended up turning off onto their drive. Came across their private drive sign, managed to get turned around without any incident. Found the road and got back going again, and the bike was performing very well. Everybody says it handles like a big dirt bike, and it certainly did. And everything was going really well until it wasn't. So the back end kicked out on me on some strange surface. I ended up going off the side of the road. It threw a bunch of rocks and was almost back on the road when I hit a rock and the bike just stopped dead, and oh, down I went. For those keeping track, that's 3 times in 24 hours I've dropped the motorcycle. This one's off-road, so maybe it doesn't count. But still, I had to kind of figure out how to get the bike back up on my own. Had a really hard time. The surface was really loose and I couldn't really get any good traction to try and get it lifted. And I've watched a lot of Itchy Boots, and so she's always having to pick her bike up in different places. And so my first thought was, okay, what would Itchy Boots do in this situation? First thing she usually does is she sets up, makes sure she's filming, and takes her helmet and jacket off because I was in the desert. It was still morning, but it was already getting pretty hot. The other thing you'll see her do is start taking stuff off the bike. You gotta lighten the bike as easily as possible. So I got all the bags off and still was having a hard time, just couldn't get any traction. Eventually I started feeling really exhausted. I was pretty gassed out, and I figured I only had like one more lift attempt in me, so I needed to get smarter, faster. So then it was time to reposition the bike, and we've got some sounds here that every motorcyclist cringes over when you hear the sound of the bike being dragged across the rocks. Put the wheels in each of the grooves in the road and managed to get it lifted up, and so you can see I've got a little celebration there. After that, I managed to finish off the dirt road, no more drops, no more incidents, and got back to the pavement. Starting to warm up, so it was time to get up out of the pan of the desert, and so I took Arizona State Highway 89 north to Prescott. What a fantastic mountain road this is. Excellent pavement, nice mountain twisties, and there were a lot of other motorcyclists out enjoying the road that day. I did, when I was younger, attended Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University in Daytona Beach, Florida, and had always been kind of curious about the Prescott campus. So while I was passing through town, made a quick stop there, ran around the campus. After that, I needed gas, so had the GPS route me to the nearest gas station. It took me through a bunch of twists and turns in town there, and finally got me there. Gassed up and got myself some lunch, and then headed back out. GPS had me a little confused. It was having me do a lot more turns, and before I knew it, I was headed back to Embry-Riddle, and that was not where I wanted to go. I was in a bit of traffic, and that was kind of not time to be playing with the GPS, and I couldn't remember how to do the skip next destination, so decided to look for a place to pull off and mess with GPS outside of the traffic. Road teed off at a nice little construction area with a big wide pavement where I could turn around very easily, so I figured this was a good place to stop. As I pulled in, I did not notice that the road was sloping to my left. I didn't quite get my butt cheek far enough off to get my foot down properly, and my pant leg kind of caught on the foot peg as I was putting my foot down, which resulted in me dropping the bike for a fourth time in 24 hours. Very grateful. Two drivers stopped and helped me pick up the bike. One of them was a motorcyclist, and so he stuck around for a little bit and chatted with me. However, when I went down, there was a construction barricade to my left. It scratched up the bike. My windscreen caught on it, shattered the windscreen all over the place. So I needed to do a little bit of repairs on the bike, and thankfully the duffel bag in the back of the bike had a bunch of spare parts that the owner had given me. So while I'm sitting there changing out the windshield, I'm having a lot of second thoughts about this bike, really questioning the purchase of this. My spirits were pretty low. I was really not having a good time. This trip had now turned into something that I was dreading trying to finish. I did get back on the road and got myself over to the Mogollon Rim, which was one of my planned rides for the day. What a fantastic place that is. Beautiful pine trees, great views. I stopped and had lunch, dangling my feet over the rim. It was a beautiful place to stop. It was a holiday weekend. There's a lot of campsites there, and I managed to get through Mogollon Rim before all of the locals started coming in for the weekend. There was a steady flow of traffic coming the other direction, of which I was not a part of, thankfully, so I was able to get out fairly easily. Made it to my hotel right there at the Arizona-New Mexico border, and decided to try to reevaluate some things. The seat that was on the motorcycle when I purchased it was a Seat Concepts seat, and the previous owner was a bit taller than me, so it was the Seat Concepts tall version. He'd also given me the KTM Power Parts seats that you see here. They're a little bit taller than the stock seat, but definitely lower than that Seat Concepts seat was. So decided to do some seat changing in the parking lot, and was kind of glad that I had done that. Made things a little bit easier for me going forward. So for day 3, I had some important decisions to make. Part of my plan was that I wanted to ride the New Mexico BDR, or at least part of it. But I felt that that was going to put me in too remote of places by myself, and I'm running the risk of dropping the bike yet again, breaking the bike, hurting myself, and being out in the middle of nowhere with nobody to help me. So I decided that probably was not the smartest plan. I decided that I'm going to avoid all of that, and unfortunately the push to my hotel, skipping the New Mexico BDR portions, meant that it would only be about a 5-hour ride to my hotel. I was 830 miles from home, so I decided, let's test out the motorcycle's long distance capability and see how it handles that. I decided to go ahead and just skip my hotel reservation for the night and push on home. The ride across New Mexico through the mountains was beautiful. I did have an incident where on Highway 60 between Magdalena and Socorro, New Mexico, got stuck behind a building. They were transporting this building and it was taking up the right shoulder and both lanes. The police were on the other side, forcing oncoming traffic off onto their shoulder. There was no way to get around, so it was a good, 50 miles of following this building at a rather slow pace in traffic. Thankfully in Socorro they let us get by, and that was a little bit interesting. After that, there's not much to tell. It was a long ride across West Texas and hit the highway and made the slog towards home. Don't have a lot of video of that because it really wasn't anything worth taking video of, and I've done it so many times that it's not even fun anymore. It's just something to be endured. Look forward to the weather getting nicer here in Texas. It's been just blazing hot so that I can get out and get on some more adventures and share some more videos with you guys. So thanks for sticking with me through this video. It wasn't the greatest trip. Sometimes the trips that aren't the greatest also don't make the greatest videos, but hopefully we'll have some better stuff for you coming soon. Thank you.